Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. Today we are on Update New Powers First Dev Server, and today it's time to have a look at the new ground vehicles which are coming in the update. One of the things, since this is going to be the first video that you'll see on the channel, one of the things that I want to note is remember, everything in the dev server is subject to change, everything can change and may change. This includes armor values, this includes ammunition, all of this stuff. So what we say here, always take it with a pinch of salt, because of those reasons. So the first vehicle up in ground forces is the M1128, or the Stryker as it is known. Its battle rating 9.0, and you will find it after the M68-2, which is kind of nice. This is a machine which has nobody in the turret. It has an auto-loading system for its 105mm. You can find the auto-loading system here. Has 8 pieces in its first stage ammo stowage, and then also has some backup ammo in the form of 10 rounds. Has a crew of 3 as well. The armor is incredibly light, but it does have some extra stuff around it, as you can see, just covering it. It's an 8-wheeled vehicle as well, based of course on the LAV, so overall a pretty interesting machine. Also has access to a 12.7mm plus a 7.62. Gets an LWS and an LR as well, which is very nice on it. And also I think there might be a problem with the rounds because it copies the same round. So the default round right now is an APFS DS, but I wouldn't be surprised if this changes to a Heat FS, because this round is the same as this one, the C76A1. The C76A1 pens 400, 338, 231 respectively, and also this machine gets access to the M900, and the M900 on the 105 pens 522, 441, 302. So this is a great round for 9.0, probably the strongest round for a 9.0 in the game, which is lovely. It gets gunner's thermals, but no commander's thermals, and does get some smoke grenades, 12 of them in total, which is really nice. Overall looking like a wonderful machine. Germany is getting a bunch of vehicles. First of all, it's starting off with the Leopard 2A6. This is incredibly similar to the 2A5, apart from the fact it gets the L55 120mm Rheinmetall. Everything else, when it comes to armor value, seems exactly the same on the machine when it comes to its general armor, including the little areas on the front of 80mm of the composite screen. And then the gun itself, being a 120, fires very similar ammo, apart from a few slight differences. Does still have a crew of 4 in it, so 3 in the turret and a driver as well. Has of course the blowout panels of the first stage ammo storage of 15 rounds, which is really nice. And if you have a look at the modifications, it gets itself access to a DM53 shell. So rank 1 DM33, that's a really nice little thing to have. You can research it straight away. And the DM53 shell pens 634, 535, 366 respectively. That is incredibly good. Gets access to thermals. I believe it's Gen 2 Commander, Gen 1 Gunner. It might be slightly different from that depending on what my eyes are, because my eyes might be completely wrong, but you can tell the difference if you want to have a look here. For me, it seems very similar to the 2A5, at least how it's set up right now, apart from the fact it gets access to the new round. So you can see here are the gunner thermals. I'm pretty sure they're Gen 1. And then when you have a look at the commander's thermals, it's definitely Gen 2. So yeah. Also, they've added some new effects when it comes to fire, when it comes to explosions, when it comes to sounds. It all sounds really, really nice. So yeah, we'll look forward to that in some extra videos. So the 2A6 is here. Very similar to the other stuff, and it looks like we've gone into a night hangar. So I'm going to have to fix that real quick by going into a battle with the Flak-Rad. The Flak-Rad, of course, being the new AA for the Germans, the big old bus, as you can see, and it is a very chonky boy. It has a crew of 3 in it, one who is on the system, one who is probably dealing with the radar, and then of course the driver in the front. And for a machine, it is absolutely massive, takes up about half of the screen, which obviously isn't great, but I tell you what, when it comes to the missile, it works really well. if I can actually hit the target instead of being silly. There you go. So target smashed. And it looks like we hit the engine, a nice little fire there. And you can see how beautiful the sky looks as well on the dev server. Has, of course, the reload mechanism as well for it. So yeah, the overall machine itself is looking really good, looking really nice and swanky. Let's just make sure this hits. And oh, maybe it doesn't feel like it. Does this one feel like it? Yeah, it does. So there we go. It's kind of harder to track the missiles now that they don't have all the way to the target, like the motor going off. There's the beautiful T-90. The T-90 isn't on the dev server, by the way, just to let you know. But this thing gets access to VT-1 surface-to-air missiles, 1,250 meters per second with a 12-kilometer firing range. These things can be fired just optically by themselves, so you don't need a radar lock or anything like that. They're not great against tanks, though. Main thing that I've been able to do is knock out barrels and knock out tracks. The Roland 3 as well is here, so 900 meters per second and 8.5 kilometer firing range. So that's what this thing gets. It gets gunner thermals as well, if you ever need to use them. But overall, the Florac is looking interesting. Then we have access to a new Leopard again. So the Leopard 1A5 is coming in for the Germans, battle rating 9.0. It has access to the 105mm L7A3, and with that gets access to DM33. So the DM33 and DM23 are on this vehicle. You will actually find this one in a pretty interesting place in the tech tree. It's basically folded with the A1A1, so if you want to bypass it, you can, but I would say don't bypass it, because this vehicle is looking very, very juicy, and you can also run it with stuff like the Radkampfwagen, which is a pretty fun one. So the 1A5 is very similar to the A1A1, apart from the fact it gets a laser rangefinder, and also gets access to gunner thermals. So this is the one which is the equivalent, basically, to the L44 Premium. So it took a few years, but, you know, we finally have an equivalent. Smoke grenades as well for the machine. Overall, it's going to feel really nice to play this one. Very much looking forward to it. The Soviets, of course, get the T-72AV, the terms. This is the new premium vehicle, which is on offer for everybody. Now, it's the AV in the game. It's known as the AB on the changelog discussion, so we'll have to see what it ends up being. My guess will be AV, because that's what it said in the dev blog. But yeah, this is a T-72A with access to some really cool thermal features. And when it comes to the gun, though, the gun fires 3BM9, 3BM15, and 3BM22 on it. So it doesn't get the 3BM42 round, but it does get Gen 2 thermals, which is really nice. Does get laser rangefinder, no LWS on this machine either. As you can see, when it comes to its rewards, 420 for the silver, and then 678 RP for the general research. That is really, really nice. Gets access to Contact 1 on the sides, as you can see, and on the front. And this is very similar to the T-72A when it comes to all of its pieces. So the armor at 9.7 won't really hold up too well, but the gun will be solid. The 3BM22 round is completely fine. One thing I will note, and I'm pretty sure, as I said, this will change going forward, this machine only right now has access to thermals in the gunner. So you can see here, has access to, of course, Gen 2 thermals, but when it comes to its commander, doesn't have any. Look for clarification, whether it's going to keep that or not. Well, you can see it's got the nice little shell thing coming out of it, which is beautiful, and also the guns on it as well. Has the same engine as the T-72A, so it's going to be very similar going forward with that. Overall, it's looking like a really nice premium, and I think the fact it doesn't get access to 42, it makes it balanced. If they'd given it 3BM42, then we may have had a discussion about the issues with it. Now, the ugliest duckling, which is coming to the game in updates to, or update new power, is this monstrosity. This is the VM5. It's the new British light tank. It's coming in at rank 6, battle rating 9.3. It's going to be after the Roycat in the tree. And this vehicle has access to the 105mm LRF, also a 50 cal on the top and a 7.62 in the turret. A bunch of smoke grenades as well. When we have a look at the armor, it's really nothing special. A bunch of aluminium basically on it, only 40mm on the front, and at most we have 50mm and 30mm on the front. So this thing's going to get eaten alive by pretty much anything firing at it. Has a driver, then a 3-man crew in the turret, and this is its first stage ammo stowage. So 7 pieces, which isn't the best, but it's good enough. The main problem is its positioning. That's going to be really easy to hit when you're looking at this machine, if it doesn't get hull broken, of course. Has an over 1000 well, that's alright, let's just change that, there we go. Has a 560 horsepower engine on it, and the reload at 7.7 seconds. Let's see what its overall is. Let's see, so for the tank loader, so you can get it down to 6.7, the base is 8.7 on the machine. Overall, kind of a pretty fun machine, and also being at 9.3, it means that you can run it with the 2 Challengers, which is nice, and also the Vickers Mark 7. So yeah, I mean, the main issue with this right now, and this might also be once again a bug on the dev server, this thing doesn't even get access to NVDs. It doesn't have thermals, it doesn't have NVDs, it only has the laser rangefinder when it comes to what would be classed as new tech. It does get access to the DM33 though, so that's really nice for the 105, can do a lot of damage with that, and also M735 as a rank 1 modified round. So yeah, it's the rounds are good, but no thermals and no NVDs seems a little bit odd for the machine. When it comes to the Japanese do get a new machine. It's the Type 74F. Now the Type 74F is very similar to the Type 74 we already have in the game in the main tech tree. The only real difference is this additional little bit of armor, 10mm of additional armor. Everything else is exactly the same on this machine. There is no difference. It still gets access to the Type 93, which absolutely slaps. Laser rangefinder, NVDs, so no thermals on this machine, and you'll find it just after the Type 74 in the tech tree. So you'll be able to make a banger of an 8.7 lineup now with the 2 vehicles, which is really, really lovely to see. When it comes to China, they're also getting a new vehicle, the PTZ89. And here it is. So this is, well, basically an Object 120 at 8.7. It does have a reload of 5.0 because it has a autoloader in the back, which has 18 pieces in it. So you ain't running out of ammo anytime soon when it comes to that autoloader. Does have a crew of 4 as well. So you have the commander, loader, and gunner. Then, of course, the driver in the front. Engine is 520, which is alright because the machine's only 30 tons. And when it comes to the general armor of this thing, it's not great. So 22mm on the front of the turret, 10mm on the top. This thing's going to get eaten by planes. 18mm on the side, and then a little bit on the back as well. Does get access to a 12.7 on the top though, so that'll be good for air defense. And the rounds that it gets, so it gets stock APFSDS and also a HE round. So the APFSDS at 8.7, 443, 374, 256, very strong for an 8.7 round. It also has access to HE, which pens 37mm. And one of the weird quirky things about this thing is it does actually have a stabilizer on the dev server. Now, everything, whenever I've read about this vehicle, when it comes to the machine, I've never seen it have a stabilizer, but at least in game right now it does. So that's something to think about. The turret rotation is not very good, but the gun itself is very, very powerful. And with a 5-second reload, you can't go wrong. So yeah, it's basically a Chinese Object 120 at 8.7. Looks really nice. Looking forward to using that machine if the mobility isn't the best. The Italians also get a 1A5, but it is slightly different to the 1A5 in the German tech tree. Obviously it has a different camo and different sets of camos, but the main difference is with the modifications. So this vehicle has access to an LWS LR, so it does get a laser warning system on it, and a laser rangefinder, where the German one only gets access to a laser rangefinder, and it's at rank 4. So it'll be much easier to grind out the Italian one with the LWS system and also the laser rangefinder at rank 2. So yeah, an extra modification means the rest will be cheaper, and also this is a good modification, it's nice to get. Also has access to the DM33 and all of the other stuff. If you want to see where it's in the tech tree, it will be after the OF40 Mark IIA, so between it and the Ariete, and creating a 9.0 lineup with the Centauro Romor is a really nice little addition. Looking forward to that quite a lot, and of course you have the toe going in the background as he goes. Isn't that really nice? But yeah, these 105s are looking really fun. You know, thermal leopards at 9.0 is always a good experience. Then we have the Soleri Sahariano, or the Chileri, or however you say it. Let's just call it the Lowrider from now on. This machine is a rank 2, battle rating 2.3 premium. That's coming in for the Italians. It has access to the 47mm 4740 Mod 38 and also 4 members of crew, 2 in the turret and a machine gunner and also a driver. Unfortunately, a machine gunner doesn't have a machine gun. Looking at the general armor profile of this machine, only 15mm on the front with an effective thickness of 23, so people are going to eat you alive, but the turret itself has 30 and 25, so a little bit extra protection on it, but nothing crazy. This thing weighs 13.5 tons, is powered by a 275 horsepower engine, so it can motor when it wants to, and also the gun itself has access to a APBC round with 69mm of pen, which isn't the best, but at the level there where it's at, as long as you don't get fully up-tiered, you should be able to pen most stuff that you face, apart from stuff like 105s. So yeah, lovely to see. The wonderful French get access to 2 new vehicles, the Lorraine 37L. This is a 1.3 little tank destroyer and has absolutely no armor on it, so 9mm and 6mm on the front, and then the gun mask is 7mm, but it does get access to 4 members of crew. 3 of them are out the back, with the boy chillin', the good old commander, the driver in the front, and does have access to a 70 horsepower engine on this tractor chassis. The gun itself is a 47mm SA-37 and does have access to APC rounds, which pen 94, 76, 32 respectively, which isn't too bad. Then it does have a really good reload as well, 3.6 seconds, at least with the crew that I have, and then if you make it a little bit better, it can go down to 3 seconds, so you can really pump out the shots at the enemy, which is really nice. And all the ammo is stored here, so it's all first stage, all 30 rounds of it are stored right there, so you don't have to worry about anything like that. When it comes to the guidance of the machine, horizontal guidance is plus or minus 34, so not the best, but okay. Vertical guidance minus 13 gun depression is really lovely to have. So yeah, looking like a pretty fun 1.3, gonna enjoy it. And then the big boy. So we have the Leclerc S2. This seems incredibly similar to the standard Leclerc that we already have in the game. They have the same ammunition, they have pretty much the same layout when it comes to the machine itself, so you can see the major differences between them are incredibly minor. It might actually be even the same model. It's probably slightly different in some areas, like the exhaust looks slightly different, yeah. So there are slight differences, but the way to see this Leclerc S2 is it's exactly the same. Exactly the same as the standard Leclerc when it comes to its overall armor protection, and it also gets access to the OFL 120F1, which is the same round as the normal Leclerc. They have exactly the same modifications, so pretty much this is a copy and paste vehicle if you want to see it like that, but at the end of the day what it means, just like the Type 90 and the Type 90B, it means that France gets a new MBT at top tier, so therefore it can run 2 Leclercs instead of 1, which is very nice. Gonna obviously come after the standard Leclerc, which, you know, is good. Has the crew of 3 with the auto loader and all of the ammo in the booty. 22 pieces, so you shouldn't really have to take any more of that. And the 3 crew, obviously behind all of the optics. The optics are exactly the same when it comes to the thermals that this thing has, no changes there either. has access to the same engine with the 1475 horsepower in it too. So yeah, it's a very similar vehicle. The Swedish get access to another big boy. This is the Strv 122B PLSS, and once again, very similar to the Leclerc, this thing seems like a carbon copy of the 122. The 122B is supposed to have slightly more armor protection around it when it comes to mine armor protection, so probably on the lower bit here, but at least in the game right now it doesn't. So the only real difference is the Wally on top, which is a optical thing. So my guess is the commander's sight will be slightly higher when it comes to the PLSS, but that's really about it. It gets access to the same modifications across the board as the Strv 122, and that just means that it gets access to DM33 as its best shell, and also gets Gen 2 thermals for the commander, Gen 1 thermals for the gunner, laser rangefinder, HE, all of that stuff. So pretty much a carbon copy plus the PLSS system, which is of course the panoramic sight on the top. We'll see if that makes any difference going forward with this machine, or if it's just going to keep it, you know, exactly the same. But yeah, it's nice to see it. And now the Swedish have 3 top tier, pretty good MBTs to choose from. So that is the ground vehicles that are coming to the game in update New Power. I look forward to it. I'll see you in the next video. See you later. I'd just like to thank Trigger Hippie, Universe, Conte Baraka, Elove Goat, Eugens Terry, Ambrosius McClellan, Daniel Stanton, Martinez, B. Young, Hans, and Samuel Slick for supporting the channel.